I'm Dara. So I am 20. I am currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I've lived in like 7 other states, so definitely like bounced around a lot. And so right now I'm a now junior as of 2 days ago. I'm a junior at Yale in Connecticut. And so my major is environmental studies with a concentration in biodiversity and conservation. And I'm doing a BS, so I'm definitely very like woman in STEM, very on the sciencey side of that stuff.
Mhm.
On campus, I really like to stay busy, so I have 3 jobs, which are the light of my life. I love it. So I work at one of the student butteries on campus, which is basically like a snack bar for students. I work at the Science Museum sorting fossils, and I'm a science tour guide for the admissions office, which is like super fun because I get to interact with new students or like prospective students and talk to them about the sciences at Yale and research, like being a woman in STEM. And then otherwise on campus, I do a lot of singing for my a cappella group, Yell Out of the Blue. I'm part of Y Fashion House, which is the only design collective on campus. And I'm the director of diversity and inclusion efforts for my sorority, Pi Phi. So those are just a couple of the things I do. There are some other things that I like to get involved with. And of course, I like to spend time with my friends. I'm a big coffee person, so I like to go and evaluate all the New Haven coffee shops. And yeah, it's really great. It's honestly such a shame that we can't finish out our semester at school, and like I love Yale so much. So yeah.
That's great. And so, can you tell me a little bit about what the most influential part of your experience with AMP was?
Yeah. So I think so I was a global scholar um, member, I guess, or a participant in I think 2016, 2017 summer. And I think that that was like really what rocketed me into like my major now, which is so funny because it's like an international kind of an international relations program, but like it made me more solidified in environmental science. And honestly, like I think that that week was like such a huge exposure for me in terms of like meeting people from nonprofits, meeting like people from embassies, like important government officials, like just learning about how to make my interests more intersectional and making it more than like okay, like more than just science, more than just like data tables, which like can happen sometimes. So in like environmental science, like being like okay, like what can we do about this? And like even some of the lectures that I had, like I remember like we had this one lecture about agriculture and like environment and just like food poverty, food scarcity, like how do we like help with environmental justice when we're like all the way across the world and somebody in another country, like how can we help? And like sitting there as like a 16, 17-year-old, like it really actually helped enrich my perspective. And I think that it was just such an important experience, and I think that that actually made me want to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And it's great that Global Scholar had such a big impact on you.
Yeah.
Um, so, the next question is, what is the thing that you've done in sort of it can be from high school, it can be in college, that you've been most proud of?
Okay, so this is kind of like a personal like pride thing. So I'm a super independent person, and so for like science students, we have to like start doing research, kind of like during our summers in college. So basically, last year I was like, okay, I really want to do research in a place with a pristine, like different environment. So I was like thinking Hawaii, Alaska, Australia, like all these different places where I can like study a pristine environment. And so I basically started, as it usually is in the sciences, and I'll touch on this later, like the way that you get positions and you get things is that you just have to like insert yourself. Like you just have to like shoot your shot, email, like be like, hi, like, can you help me? Like, and that's actually how I got my like summer internship this summer. I literally cold emailed. So um I emailed a bunch of labs in Sydney and Australia and Hawaii and Alaska, and I basically ended up getting after some interviews, I ended up getting this position with the Global Ecology Lab in Sydney, Australia, which was super cool. But I think the one thing was like Australia is insanely expensive. Like a plane ticket is like $2,000, and I was uh, like yeah, I have jobs, but like I don't have like $2,000 plane ticket kind of jobs. So I went back through Yale and I went through like the Office of Career Strategy, and I went and I basically ended up applying for a bunch of like individual grants and small things. And basically, to make a long story short, I got a $8,000 in my check, or I got an $8,000 check in my hand, to like pursue this like once in a lifetime opportunity. And honestly, it made me so proud to like, I was like, wow, like I earned this. I actually like paid my way to like this like dream thing. Um, like this dream opportunity to do desert research, and like the part of the desert that I was in, like it's a part of the globe like no one gets to see. Like it's a restricted reserve. It's like 5 or 6 hours from the nearest like any civilization, no running water, no electricity, like literally sleeping in the sand. Like and it was honestly just made me such a better scientist. And like I'm just, it made me feel like I can do anything. Like if I want to go to Australia, I can go to Australia and I can find the money and I can do it. So it was a really important like personal development thing for me.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my next question is, what is a lesson you've learned that could help younger AMP alumni avoid a mistake that you've made?
Okay, so I think like what I was saying before, honestly, like shoot your shot. That's my lesson. I think like I always tell my friends, and like my parents have told me, just like imagine all the opportunities like you've missed out on and you're missing out on and that you're gonna miss out on because you're shy, afraid of rejection, like you're like self-conscious. Like, and honestly, like you have to be a go-getter in this world if you want something. And like even if, for example, like you get rejected from an internship that you really wanted, like I've seen so many stories, like even my friends have like emailed the responder back and be like, hi, like I know I was rejected, can you give me like tips on like improving myself to be a better applicant? Can you give me tips on like my resume, on my interview? And the or the like employer's like, oh, I really like that attitude, let's take a second look, and then they get hired. Like it's really important to follow up, to like email people. Like for example, I'm helping edit a conservation book this summer with a doctor from Yale, and like the publisher is through like Springer, which is a pretty like prestigious science publisher. And I didn't know any of this until like 2 weeks ago, but I emailed her in January. I was like, look, I'm like trying to find something for the summer, can you help me? Like do you have any research opportunities? I would love to get involved. And she was like, yeah, I do, because a lot of these people just like want help, and they, you know, really do want to teach undergrads. So like if you're interested in something, email someone, or like network, or just ask for contacts, ask for help. Like when a lot of people are older, like they want to help younger people, so you should take advantage of your resources and just like don't ever feel like you're missing out on things because you're afraid of rejection. The worst answer you can get is no, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. So next question is, what advice would you give to an alumni who's interested in taking a similar path as you?
I would say honestly to try everything and not be picky. So I think like, for example, while I was doing desert research last summer, the book that I'm working on this summer is obviously like I'm helping edit a book. It's not research because obviously like COVID problems. Like I did have another thing lined up, and it was actually a thing, lion research like fieldwork thing lined up in Botswana, which is really cool. And then it was not it was not possible. But that's why I think it's important, like especially when you're shooting your shot, to not be picky. Like for example, like I'm not super into like tree ecology, but I emailed a bunch of like plant ecologists anyway, because I was like, well, even if I'm not like super into it, it's still important to like dip your toes into things you're not like instantly comfortable with. And also just like the more things that you apply to, the more possibility you have of getting something you want. So I think that it's important to, you know, realize some people might not have space for you. Applying to like two things might not be worth it if you're like, people have like one spot for interns in each, and then you're left with nothing. I also think the really important thing, like if you're into environmental studies, is like to find something intersectional you can like hone in on. So like for me, I'm super into like sustainable fashion. And like, so I'm part of Y Fashion House at school. And so we, until like coronavirus kind of stopped everything, we were planning our like first fashion show this year, and the theme was going to be like sustainability, and that like every single item of clothes you were going to get was going to be like resourced, like nothing bought. So it kind of a carbon neutral fashion show. And also just like, you know, especially environmental science interacts with like literally everything. So just like finding something you care about and finding a way to like, you know, make it so that like environmental science and this thing you care about are one. And just like make things your thing. And I think it's just important to like, honor your interests and not to pretend to like something you don't like. If you really don't like research, then throwing yourself into a lifetime of research is not going to be fun for you. So just, focus on your interests. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. And are you working on anything that you'd like to share with other members of the AMP community?
So you guys should keep your eyes peeled, because so now that my semester is over, I'm really gonna get to work on this. So I'm basically a content creator for AMP. So I'm gonna be doing a series of like probably 3 videos about like different environmental topics. We're just testing it out, and it has the potential to be like a longer term thing in the future. So I'm definitely gonna be doing that, which would be interesting. And we might make a coronavirus video kind of thing. And just kind of putting educational things out there. So once I get those edited and done, it should be really fun. And, I hope that to get feedback from the AMP community. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. And do you have any social handles that you want people to follow you at?
Oh, yeah. So my Instagram, it's so funny because like I always think my name is the most like unique ever in the world, and it's not. And so I've never been able to get my real name on my Instagram. So my Instagram is Ash Queen. I made it in 8th grade and it just stuck. My Twitter is Dara Explores. And then my Facebook and LinkedIn are both Dara Albrecht. You guys can follow me. I'll give you guys my email too. Yeah, you just email me with questions, with concerns. I absolutely love helping people like find what they want to do. And like, for example, in my sorority, I have a bunch of like my environmental studies babies is what I call them. So they were like, oh my god, how do I cold email like this like 50-year-old guy? He's gonna respond like, okay, sent from my iPhone. Like I was like, don't worry. And we like made email templates. We did like a workshop. So like if anyone has any questions, concerns, comments, like opportunities, like please like send me an email. Yeah, I would love to get in touch with people.
Great. And I'll link all of your contact information in the description of the video so everyone can go check it out there.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I think everyone watching learned a lot from you, and I think anyone who's interested in environmental science should definitely reach out to you.
Thank you.
All right.